she left to go away on holidays at 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. I was at the bottle shop buying a cask of wine, and I drank for 2 weeks straight till oblivion, and was found, like, my brother had to break into the house to see if I was okay, and I was on the ground with my neck brace off, unconscious.
Hi, I'm James. Welcome to Slaying Sober, where we tell stories of addiction, recovery, and hope. Wherever you are on your sober journey, know that you do not stand alone. Ash grew up believing that her dad didn't want her. She was raised in a broken home, surrounded by addiction and violence, but she was also sharp, driven, and deeply studious. By day, she was studying law, but by night, she was partying hard and in a relationship with a drug trafficker. She eventually went on to practice criminal law as her career, but behind the scenes, her drinking was escalating into something far more serious. What started out socially turned into dependence, and she began to lose the things she loved: her job, her friendships, and eventually hope itself. She tried changing cities, partners, and even rehab, but they didn't work. Not even a broken neck or getting kicked out of a psych ward for sneaking in alcohol was enough to stop her destruction. But this story has a happy ending when Ash found Bali, the island of the gods. She came looking for meaning and for connection, but she found so much more. In a beautiful full circle moment, that's exactly where this conversation was recorded. Please enjoy this conversation with Ash. Hi Ash, welcome to Slaying Sober. Thanks a heap for joining me.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come on here. I feel very privileged.
I've heard a little bit of your story and I'm really, really looking forward to going through it in depth. Now, where are we?
We're on the island of the gods.
Yes, what a great place to connect with our recovery.
Yeah, it's incredible.
You were telling me before off camera you've been to 37 countries, but what does Bali mean to you?
It's hard to put into words. Like, Bali, I feel like connected at a soul level. Like, Bali's a place that I found myself.
Yeah.
And it's so special.
Yes. That's amazing. Yeah, it's a very spiritual place, and it's a great place to recover. My sponsor did say to me before I came here sober the first time, be careful because there's a lot of temptation in Bali, so I do tread carefully.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, people say that, if you can get sober and stay sober in Bali, then I think you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's weird because since being here, I kind of become oblivious to it. It's all background noise.
Yes.
Like, I see the spiritual side here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a result of having completed, a 12-step program.
Yeah, absolutely. And we met very briefly last night in an NA meeting here, which was really well attended. And it's just so beautiful to be connected with our recovery and with the fellowship abroad.
Well, that's like, I think we are so lucky to have found recovery, and particularly when you're in a 12-step fellowship. Like, I can go anywhere in the world and I have family and I have friends, and I think that that's something so unique.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let's start at the beginning. Tell me about Little Ash
Little
and
Ashie.
where you grew up.
Little Ashie. All right. So I was born in Newcastle, Australia, and I am a twin.
Okay.
I've got a twin sister.
Yes.
We're fraternal, nothing alike. And I'm one of four.
Okay.
My parents separated when I was 5 and got divorced. And my mum remarried very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, like, I come from a very humble background. We weren't wealthy. We didn't have a lot of money, but we always had food,
Yeah.
on the table.
Mm.
But My mum and my stepfather worked a lot,
Mm.
and it kind of left us kids to fend for ourselves.
Mm.
And I don't know. I always think that I grew up early. Like, my like I had to get we had to get ourselves ready for school. I remember being in primary school and my parents were already at work.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Was there a sense of abandonment there at any point?
In hindsight, like, so looking back now, I had deep abandonment wounds,
Mm.
and those are from, you know, feeling abandoned by my dad.
Yes.
As a child, I was told things like, "Your father didn't want you." Um, I remember, and something that stuck with me deeply, I guess, is that I was told that when my father found out that they were having twins, he hoped that one of us would die so that he wouldn't have to buy a bigger car.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I grew up feeling unwanted and unloved.
Mm. Did you rekindle your relationship with your father?
I have in this recovery,
Okay.
and he's one of my best friends now.
Wow.
And as it's funny because as part of like the um I don't know, it's been a very healing journey with my dad, and who I thought he was to who he actually has been consistently through my life is a lot different.
Mm.
And, there was a point last year where, like, he's my biggest supporter.
Yeah.
He's my biggest advocate for recovery. He tells me that he's proud of me every single day when I don't even do anything.
Yeah.
And one moment I had last year, I actually flew back for his birthday. And like, I was living in Bali and I flew back just for his birthday to be there
Yeah.
for him. And we're so close now. But I just remember, as part of our healing journey, I remember my sponsor saying to me, write a list of all the things that you want your higher power to be. And I wrote a list of all the qualities. And I remember flying back and sitting there and realizing my dad is all of those things.
Isn't that interesting?
Loyal, kind, forgiving, loving, unconditional love, like all these things that I wanted in a higher power. That's my dad.
Is that because you missed out on those things when you were younger?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the reality is very different,
Mm.
and I've only come to learn that over time
Mm.
of who my dad is as a person,
Yeah.
and that what happened isn't what I was told.
Okay.
And I've only come to, I guess, like, I used to get things that used to annoy me and things I used to think about my dad. Since coming into recovery and waking up,
Mm.
he is the most incredible person, and all the good qualities in me come from my dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. What about your mum and your stepdad? How was that growing up with them?
um, it's hard. Like, I never understood, I guess, until the reality of the experience until this recovery. And as a result of doing the steps and doing the inner work, I actually didn't speak to my mum for the first 12 months of this recovery. I
Okay.
cut her off, and,
Yeah.
I set a lot of boundaries, and those weren't respected, and I had to step away,
Mm.
um, until I was in a place that I felt capable of having a, healthier relationship with her.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stems back to, um, gaining insight and awareness into my own childhood and what
Mm.
happened.
Yeah.
Mm.
Understood. And you said you got a twin sister.
Mhm.
Other siblings?
Yes, I've got 2 older brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And does addiction run in your family?
Well, this is the thing, because that's, people say that it usually is a family disease, right? And
Yeah.
and I I knew that it was in my family, but I didn't know where that come from. And, I've since learned that my grandmother, like, who passed away before I was born, she was addicted to painkillers.
Okay.
But, on my dad's, so it must run from my dad's side. But my older brother, was addicted to heroin at a very young age, and he spent his 18th and 21st birthday in prison.
Okay.
And my other brother wa- ended up in a drug-induced schizophrenia and in a mental hospital for 12 months, and I couldn't see him either. And well, it's not funny, but looking back now, I remember saying to someone, I always thought, well, I always used to say, like, I know now I can't touch heroin because I saw what it did to my brother.
Yeah.
And I know I can't touch weed because of what it did to my brother, but everything else is on the table.
Yeah, yeah.
And like looking back now, that's just insane because it
Yes.
didn't turn me away from the drugs, just those two drugs,
Yes. That's really interesting. And what about your twin sister?
So she's the only one that managed to get out of it scot-free. She's she enjoys life. She can drink and leave it at that. She just wanted the house, the white picket fence, the 2.5 kids and the dog, and she's just like really content with life. And I actually envy her.
Yeah.
She's grateful for what she has, and it's enough.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't have these grandiose ideas and
Yes. Like we do in addiction.
yes, forever chasing
Yep.
the elusive feeling of happiness.
Yeah.
She's just happy and free, and I just think I'm so jealous.
Yes. And isn't that interesting that she's the one that I suppose is genetically composed so similar to you, being a twin, yet all the others have suffered from addiction?
Yeah.
Really interesting. So tell us about your first experience with substance.
So I guess like growing up, look, I had a very violent stepfather, and once he came into our life when we were 5, he was a drinker. My mum didn't drink before that.
Okay.
And all I remember like through growing up was there always being a cask of wine in the fridge, like Lambrusca, red wine.
Yeah.
And
4 liters?
Yep.
Yep.
And I just remember them always drinking and at night, and I couldn't ever get them to drive me anywhere. So things like school dances or going to friends' houses, like my friends had to get their parents to come and get me. And I just thought that was just how it was. Like they just drank at night, Like I thought everyone's parents did, but that wasn't the case. And I guess for me, I guess I sort of stumbled on it. I remember first having a drink at a friend's house when I was like 13, 14, and it was a girls' night. It was a sleepover. And what it was is that like I really struggled with friendships in school, and I was a bit of a loner. Like, well, it was always trying to fit into the popular group, and I always wanted to be liked. And I went through periods of like I was a bigger girl, so I went through periods where I would extreme diet, and I watched my mum diet, so I was forever on shake diets. And this is in like primary school and high school. I was like always dieting and starving myself to fit in, and I would bleach my hair blonde because my mum was a hairdresser.
Okay.
And I remember these popular girls were having a sleepover, and I managed to get invited. And I remember feeling, like I always wanted to be part of. And one of the girls' mums allowed us to drink that night. And that was the first time that I touched alcohol.
How did it make you feel?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it was just something came over me, and I lost like fear, and I felt free, and like I felt like I became the life of the party, and I felt fun and happy and laughing, and like everything else went away. And, from that moment, those girls allowed me to be part of.
Yes.
And I was invited to everything, and they wanted that fun party girl to come everywhere. And that's where it started for me.
Yeah, absolutely. How were your marks at school?
Good. It's funny because I've got like these 2 personalities, right? Like I was a straight A student. I was really smart. And I loved school. I remember like getting hospitalized for tonsillitis and crying because I couldn't go to school. Like massive nerd. Yeah. I was in all the top classes.
Yeah.
But then, I was suspended in year 11 for fighting with a girl, and I was dating boys 3 years like in years 3 years higher than me, and I was hanging out on the weekends drinking at like open home parties, but then I'm in the top classes.
Yeah.
And I'm getting straight A's on my report cards, but my comments are saying I talk too much in class and distract other people. And,
Yeah.
you know, like I just had these split personalities.
Classic high achiever.
Mm.
There you go. And what did you do after school? I believe you went on to tertiary education.
Yes. So I went into university in Newcastle and I did a Bachelor of Communication and
Yep.
Journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved writing. I did like gifted and talented writing workshops and all that sort of stuff. But what happened was when I was in year 12, I fell in love at a party with a drug trafficker.
Okay. That'll do it.
And anyway, I got sort of caught up in that world, and that's where I was first introduced to other substances.
Okay.
And
Your party girl era.
my party girl era.
Mm.
And I had just missed out on getting into law, like a combined degree of law and journalism,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, I turned 18 in May of my year 12.
Yep.
And I was out partying a lot.
Yeah.
And even on Sunday sessions, like in Newcastle, Sunday sessions were
Mhm.
where it's at. And I was coming to school on Monday hungover, and yeah, I just like went off in a different tangent, and it's like, it's a miracle that I got the grades in to get into journalism.
Mm.
And I did that for 2 years, and then I moved to the Gold Coast.
Ah, the city of sin.
Yes.
Yep.
And then I ended up doing a law degree there.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you did step back into law and
Yes. Well, so I finished my journalism degree, and then I did postgraduate law.
Yep.
Yeah, on the Gold Coast.
so you were a party girl studying law
Yes,
and you became a qualified lawyer?
I did.
Did you?
I did, and I look
That's
back now and
incredible.
go, I don't know how. And I think to myself, imagine if I had just like not gone out and I just stayed home and studied. Imagine what I could have been. I could be a judge right now.
So you went on to practice law?
I did.
Amazing.
I did.
That's a hell of an achievement in itself.
Yeah. It's just wild because I was partying 3 or 4 nights a week, and I remember I was working 2 jobs,
Mm.
and I was putting myself through, like I lived out of home from 15, 16, and I was putting myself through 2 jobs. I was studying full time, and I was doing internships, and I was partying. And I remember people saying to me, like, I was like, oh, you're going to come out tonight? And they're like, no, we've got like uni in the morning, or we've got work tomorrow. And I was like, so?
Why not do both?
Yeah, I was just like, you sleep when you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just kept going, and I don't know how I achieved it, but I did.
You sort of sometimes you can tend to do these things in your 20s,
Mm.
you know, and try and live all lives and burn the candle at both ends, I suppose.
Mm.
When did you realise that drugs and alcohol had become a problem for you?
Very late, to be honest, because I hung around people that normalized it,
Mm.
right? And like through university and then afterwards, and I got into the legal profession and started practicing, and I relocated to Brisbane, and I was able to keep it relatively like to, I guess, like social and binge drinking and partying on weekends.
Mm.
And I managed to do that for quite a long time, for years.
Yeah.
But I was a workaholic,
Mm.
right? I threw myself into work, into fitness. I was doing boot camps, like fitness training, and I was drinking vodka and water and
Skinny bitches.
all the supplements. And like,
Yeah.
I guess like my disease had, like looking back, my disease played out in other areas
Yeah.
at that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it tends to, doesn't it? Like as addicts, we can be, but if we're high achieving addicts, which I know because I sort of feel like I've been there as well, is that you can get addicted to work. You
Yeah.
can get addicted to the gym. You can get addicted to supplement routines.
Yep.
There's a lot of people in the rooms that are addicted to peptides at the moment, I'm feeling.
Yes, that is the case.
As well. but yeah, being high achieving and fast paced as well. So you got through, and when did it sort of start to present itself as
Mm.
or have consequences too?
So for many years, like when I was even working as a lawyer, so I worked in criminal prosecution for a long time, and my drinking increased a lot, and I used to frame it as like I'm so stressed out, like I've had a really hard day, I'll just have a drink,
Mm,
and I would be drinking a bottle of wine a night, but then like it did progress, and I remember like the consequences showed up particularly at work parties.
mm,
Like, I remember living in Cairns and I was at a Christmas event, like work party,
yeah,
and I remember just being very intoxicated very quickly and embarrassed myself. And, there was judges there
yeah,
and judges associates, and I was saying inappropriate comments.
yeah.
And, this progressed into like Christmas, like work parties where I was found out the front sitting in a gutter
Mm,
and like just blackout all the time and losing phones and not knowing how I got home. And other people started to notice, and like other friends started raising concerns, and I just kind of shrugged it off. And
yeah.
then I moved to London.
Mhm.
I had these grandiose dreams of what I was going to do in the world. Like I always had this feeling of wanting more, and I always had this feeling of wanting to make a difference,
Yeah.
right? And like having this, trying to find my purpose in life.
Mm,
And after 5 years prosecuting, I felt like a just a cog in a broken system,
mm,
and I couldn't make a difference. And it took a huge toll on the way I saw the world, like
yes.
seeing the worst of society day in and day out, and like with all the crime, and I couldn't do anything. And I'd made a decision to leave and go to the UK before I was 30 with the
Mhm.
visa. And so I worked over there for 2 years. And that's, I think, like it was coming back from that 2 years over there and coming back to Australia. That's where, and then over COVID, it really just fell off a cliff.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about your friends? What did they think of your behavior?
Yeah. Because the party stopped for them when we got older, right? We grew up, well, I didn't, but they grew up. They grew up, and they got, you know, husbands, wives, children, really good jobs. Like they bought houses and cars, and like they were stable, and I didn't have any of those things, and I was just blowing money everywhere.
Mm,
And I guess like they would invite me out for dinners, and then I would take it too far.
mm,
I would always want to keep going or do more. And then eventually, like, I was causing a lot of trauma to friends. Like, I would go to a housewarming party and just send it to oblivion. And then I would just disappear. And my group of friends in Sydney had to call the police looking for me.
yeah.
And I was found passed out in my car the next day. And, I've had friends that had to come to hospital trips with me
Mm,
because I hurt myself. I'd broken my shoulder for my 30th birthday. And, I ended up in psych wards, and I ended up, like, my friends were so concerned. They got me banned from, a food delivery service of like alcohol.
yeah.
And eventually they all just distanced themselves from me. Like I just brought drama,
Mm,
and I brought they were embarrassed. Like they didn't want me there anymore because they never knew what I was going to do or say.
yeah.
And so I became really alone.
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned there about hospital trips.
Mm.
You've injured yourself a few times.
Yes.
Tell us some of those stories.
Oh, I mean, besides all the bruises and the scrapes and all of that sort of stuff, like, I guess, it periods of time, I was, using substances in Sydney, and I really loved fishing, and I went rock fishing in a bikini, and I got swept off the rocks, and I tried to climb back out, and like I was just fully covered in like grazes and bleeding everywhere, and was hospitalized. And then friends came and saw me, and there was periods of time where I was just manic and just risky behaviors, and yeah, like I broke my shoulder in Mexico for my 30th, and then I guess what over like COVID, so I had gastric sleeve surgery, weight loss surgery over COVID. Like I lost my job and I had the surgery. And so I used to comfort eat. And then after that is when my drinking fell off a cliff.
Okay.
So around COVID. And I just would drink. I could continue to drink liquids and fit that in. And then eventually I moved back to Newcastle, and I was living with my dad, and my drinking had gotten out of control and I just couldn't stop. It was daily, and I couldn't hold down a job, and I always thought that I had a mental health problem, and all my friends thought I had mental health problems. And I saw all the answers. Like I went into 2 private mental hospitals in Newcastle, and I was getting Uber delivery of wine to the hospital
Really?
when I was trying to detox, and I got kicked out of both.
Wow.
And
so talk us through that again. So you were in a mental health hospital trying to detox and get well. And how did you first go into that facility?
So it became quite obvious to a lot of people that my mental health wasn't very good, and I was unstable, and I was extremely high or extremely low. And, suicidal thoughts were quite regular, and I was self-harming when I was intoxicated. And that was why there was a lot of ambulance involvement and being taken by ambulance to hospital for a lot of like self-harming. And I ended up in a relationship with someone who was using meth. And I guess like there was it was very clear that I needed help, and alcohol was an issue, but I always thought that the underlying issues was mental health. So I looked at going into mental hospitals, and there were only like 3-week stints, because in my mind, I'm happy to be called mental. I'm happy to be called. I was diagnosed, borderline personality disorder, depression, anxiety, bipolar. But I would sit in these mental hospitals and be given a label, and then I was on Valium to detox, and then they were giving me things like lithium, and I tried all the medications to stop drinking, like anti-abuse, all of them. I tried them. Naltrexone. I tried all of them over a period of time, and I drank on all of them. I continued. I couldn't stop, and I refused to go to rehab.
So you were happier to identify as having significant mental health issues and identify in those areas that you just said before, rather than stepping into, hold on, I might be an alcoholic or I might be an addict.
I was in such denial. Like I did everything to not go to, like, my parents, my family, everyone tried to get my ex-boyfriend, like they all tried to get me into rehabs, and I refused. And I said, like, I'm not an addict. I'm not an alcoholic. Like,
yet you were in this mental health facility, sneaking in wine, so you could continue to drink. How did that work out for you?
Not good. And like I was hiding, like there was one that we were allowed out for 2 hours at lunchtime, and I would go to like Aldi and buy the alcohol and then stash it in the garden out the front of the mental hospital. And because when we got back, we were breath tested. And then at night, we're allowed out for a smoke break. So I pretended that I was going out for a smoke break, and then just downing like a full bottle of alcohol and then going back in. And obviously once that hit, me. I was a mess, and it became obvious that I was intoxicated, and then I got kicked out.
That is insanity in its own right, isn't it?
I used to fill up water bottles, like the metal water bottles of alcohol, and drink it at work, thinking that I could get away with it, and then found out later that everyone could smell it, and then they could see the change in me.
Yeah.
At work.
As the day went on.
Yeah. Like I just had to have it all the time.
Yeah.
And
so you were completely dependent.
I became dependent in the end, to the point where I had the tremors and the shakes. I was drinking it before work. I was counting the hours and minutes down to my lunch break, and I would race to the pub to scull 2 glasses of wine and go back to work. I would finish work and drive straight to the bottle shop, and I had finished a bottle of wine before I arrived home.
Yeah.
Like I just drank it straight out of the bottle on the way home, and then I would get more from then.
Yeah.
I just drink to oblivion every day.
Did that have consequences at your workplace?
Yeah. So, inevitably I lost jobs. My partner at the time in Newcastle tried to get me into AA.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I would go, because he said, if you drink again, I'm going to leave. And I used to drive to the meeting and sit in the car and drink, and then go into the meeting. I was drunk in meetings for 6 months. And I remember, like, I started, drink driving and crashing cars. And I started, like, I convinced, anyway, my partner broke up with me. I lost my job, and I ended up back living with my dad, and I was living with family. And they would say things, if you drink again, you're out. And I moved between, like, my dad's, my mum's, my aunties, like everyone just kept kicking me out because I was continually doing the same thing. And they took my car keys off me and wouldn't let me out of their sight. Like they thought that they were coming from a place of love and protecting me and trying to stop access to drinking. And they didn't understand that there's actually really serious health complications from withdrawing someone without medical supervision, that I could actually die from that.
Yeah.
And in my mind, every second of the day, all I was doing was plotting to get the next drink. And this is actually how I broke my neck.
Okay.
Yeah.
You broke your neck.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
So I was at my dad's, and he had taken my key cards off me to stop me accessing my bank, my car, everything. And he fell asleep on the lounge, and it'd been like maybe 2 weeks since I got a drink. And, I used to manipulate him to go see my cousin, my brother's boy, my nephew. I used to manipulate Dad and say, oh, I want to go see my nephew, knowing that my brother had alcohol in the house. Pretending that I'm seeing my nephew, but I wasn't. I was hunting alcohol because my dad had none. And I remember, like, going to shopping at the supermarket with my dad, and I told him I needed to go to the toilet, and I had PayWave on my phone. And I ran to the bottle shop to buy a little hip flasks of alcohol and smash them while Dad was shopping. And then this one day, Dad was asleep on the lounge, and I snuck out the back door, and I ran to the bottle shop, and I drank 2 bottles of wine in 10 minutes on the way back to his. And I went to the front door, and I passed out. Like I slipped down the stairs and stuff, and I fractured my neck in 2 places. And Dad didn't know. He just heard me fall.
Yeah.
And then he knew that I was drunk, and he wouldn't let me in. He locked the door, and I was banging on the door, begging him and crying to let me in. He left me out there for like 4 hours. And he was so upset. Like, he was so stressed out from trying to supervise me that he almost had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And then he let me in, and I went to bed. And then the next day we realized that I'd broken my neck, and I was taken by ambulance to hospital with a neck brace. And I had a neck brace on for 12 weeks.
Oh my God.
And that didn't stop me. He had kicked me out, and my mum took me back, and I didn't drink for 2 weeks. And she had a holiday booked, and she thought this is going to be her rock bottom. This is going to stop her drinking. Like, I couldn't even shower or dress myself in a neck brace. I couldn't sleep. Like, she was making me food, cooking. She was doing my laundry. And so she's like, okay, well, you haven't drank for 2 weeks. Like, you've sworn off it. You've promised me you won't do it. You've got a broken neck. At this time, I was still going to meetings. I'd got a sponsor. My sponsor was going to come pick me up and take me to meetings. She left to go away on holidays at 6 a.m. And 8 a.m., I was at the bottle shop buying a cask of wine. And I drank for 2 weeks straight till oblivion, and was found. Like, my brother had to break into the house to see if I was okay. And I was on the ground with my neck brace off, unconscious, and taken to hospital. I'd get released and I'd get an Uber back straight to home through the bottle shop and do it again over and over. And I just could not stop.
Yeah, that's crazy. It just shows that a broken neck and rock bottom can still have a basement, right?
Yeah. And it's just baffling now. Like, I look back and, like, my dad's begging me, my family's begging me, please stop. Like they just couldn't understand why I continued to do it. I was like killing myself. And, my mum would say to me, I'm not going to take care of you when you're disabled and in a wheelchair, because because the break in my neck was, like, really close to my spinal cord. And she's like, I'm not going to take care of you when you're disabled. Like, and nothing stopped me. Like, partners threatening to leave me, family cutting me off. Like, my mum left me in a park one day and said, you're on your own now, and then I just went and reached out to another family member and, like, I dragged them into it. And I just kept, like, leaving a trail of wreckage behind until, like, eventually I ended up going up to Queensland to my cousins, and I got a new job. I go for periods of time. Like, I eventually worked out, like, to try and stop drinking, but I'd picked up other things.
Yes.
Where I wasn't a drunken mess, I was using other substances.
Yes.
So
you switched the witch to the bitch. Yeah.
And they didn't know. They just thought I'd stopped drinking, and all was good. And I managed to be able to function
differently.
And I got a job really randomly. I got a job and I packed the car up and I drove to Queensland. And within 2 weeks, I was given the ultimatum by my cousin, you're on the street or you go to rehab. And that was 3 years ago.
Wow. So you went to rehab?
I did.
And you decided you were going to start to get well.
It's funny because I didn't want to go to rehab.
Yeah.
Like, it was a last resort for me. And it was like, given the ultimatum, everyone had cut me off. I had nowhere to go except for the street. I'd lost my job again. It was like, you're either on the street as an homeless alcoholic, or you go to rehab. And, I kind of went there reluctantly. But I went there kicking and screaming. And, like, it's not the case that I had realized that I needed help. It's not the case that I wanted a better life. It's not like I was literally dragged there. And it's weird because it's only through the process of being there and being taken to meetings, like 12-step meetings, and realizing that I wasn't the only one. There's other people and that I could get well, and, like, being given some hope, because at this point I just, like, had lost all will.
Yes. And that's it, isn't it? Like, you were saying that you've got a lot around you. You had this great job, you were, like, really clever, but it's when you start to lose the will to live where it's really heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you moved up and moved in with your cousin, how did that look for you from the outside? How was life for you?
I was miserable, but, it's either I had convinced family or family had convinced me that me leaving Newcastle and going back to Queensland, which is my happy place, and taking on a new job was going to be a fresh start. And I don't know whether it was me convincing them of that or whether they convinced me of that, but we all believed it.
Yeah.
Like, that I would go back to Queensland because I moved there when I was 20 and I loved Queensland, loved my life there. And it was only after I left Queensland that things got bad, right? In my head.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality. But in my head, like, Queensland was going to be the holy grail that'll save me.
Classic geographical.
I was all about it. Like I kept moving all around Australia thinking the next place like is going to be it for me, like where I'll be happy. And I moved back to Queensland and yeah, like I said, it was within 2 weeks of starting that new job. I was back drinking till oblivion again and leaving a train wreck, like drinking on the job at work. My cousin had to come pick me up from my work office because they had called her and I couldn't drive home.
Yeah.
And I just could not stop.
Yeah. So what was the ultimate change?
Something happened to me when I was in treatment. Because I didn't want it. I just wanted to be left alone to drink, and I couldn't understand why people wouldn't let me drink myself to death. Like I wanted to.
Yeah.
And
And you got convinced to go to rehab?
yeah, like my cousin, took me there, and I don't know, somewhere within the first like month, like something inside of me changed, and I wanted something better. I wanted to stop. Like I got hope.
Yeah.
Something in me just switched and I was like, I'm going to do this.
And you realised that there was other people
Yeah.
just as fucked up as you were?
Yeah, because I was shocked. Like, I met people in there that had been nurses and people that were in there for addiction to painkillers. And I met like other lawyers in there. And I was just like, I don't know, like I was just blown away by the people that were in there that were just like ordinary normal people and didn't look like a typical alcoholic or junkie,
Yeah,
like
what you expected them to be like. 'Cause
Yeah.
you've got this sort of perception of like a park bench drunk,
Yeah.
sleeping under a bridge junkie or whatever it might be. But the reality is that, yes, there are some of those people, but the great majority of them are trying to live a pretty normal life.
Yeah.
And sometimes masking it well and sometimes not.
Yeah. And like there were professionals in there and there were like mums in there,
Yeah.
like just ordinary mums. And I was just blown away, like, and that was the first time that I felt like I've actually belonged. Like the first time the feeling of loneliness disappeared for me. And I started to understand, like people started to like me for me, and I had no makeup on. I had bad regrowth. I was just like completely raw and vulnerable and authentic, and I actually built connections, and I never thought that was possible, that people would accept me for me. And that's where things changed for me.
Yeah. So how long were you there for?
So I did 2 months.
Yeah.
2 months there.
Yeah. Live in rehab?
Live in rehab.
Yeah.
And I think the discipline and the structure really helped. And I was very diligent, very hardworking, studied all the literature, did all the did all the homework. I was a very good girl.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I just that sort of put me in good stead. It taught me about the things in the 12-step programs that are going to keep me clean and sober.
Yes.
But I made a few mistakes.
Talk us through them.
So, in the treatment facility and in the 12-step rooms, where the newcomers are told, don't get in a relationship in the first 12 months. And they say, like stick with men for men and women with women. And they also talk about things like anything you put before recovery you'll lose. And, all these little sayings and quotes that that you always hear in the room, and you just like, it's just on repeat all the time. And I'm quite stubborn and I have to learn the hard way. And unfortunately, that was my experience. I found my soulmate in rehab.
Yes.
Also, I thought.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Also, I thought. What we put the substances down and we look for other things.
Yes.
And I was getting, attention and from the boys, and I got involved in a relationship with one, and it was very intense, very quick. We were inseparable. It was codependency.
Yeah.
And we moved I got out of the treatment facility and he came out 2 weeks later and we moved in together
Mm.
and we lived together for 18 months
Yeah.
and we did recovery together.
Yeah. So you were 18 months together in recovery.
We lived together for 18 months, but I had a relapse after 14 months.
Okay.
Mm.
What do you reckon led to that?
Many things. I think, like, looking back, I struggled with the spiritual side of the program, like the AA and the NA program, finding a spiritual solution.
Yeah.
And, I thought that education would save me.
Mm.
And I was doing the suggested things of the program and, going to meetings, doing step work, having a sponsor, doing a service. I was doing those things, but over time they became less and less.
Mm.
And I started to build such a full life really quickly.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if it was making up for lost time. I put down when you put down substances, like, things come back really quickly.
Mm.
I was like shocked. And, I had the house and we got a house and a car and I got like a full-time job as a lawyer again. And I had friends in the fellowship and we were going constantly out all the time doing things, like living a full life. And then my partner at the time, he had 3 children, so I took on the responsibility of being a stepmom, and we got a dog, and I'm flying back to Newcastle to see family and booking holidays and gym 5 days a week, and like all of a sudden life got really full.
Yes.
But I was caving in. Like, it was crushing me.
Mm.
And I guess what happened is that I also said that I was going to do like counseling and therapy in recovery, and I didn't do that. And I didn't work on the things inside of me. And like I had done the steps up to step 9 and stopped.
Yeah.
And then I stopped talking to my sponsor. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped doing all the things. But what happened was, like, I had received information one Friday when I was walking to my home group, and I had the mental blank spot. Like, nothing I'd ever done in the past came into my mind. I got a text message about my stepfather being released from prison, and I went straight to the bar and picked up.
Wow.
Like, instantly, nothing mattered. I
Mm.
just picked up. No matter how much recovery I had, how all the wreckage of my past, how much I had rebuilt. That's what caused my first relapse.
Mm.
And then it was like a short succession of relapses after that until now.
Yeah. It's a lot to deal with, like getting a text message with such prolific information.
Mm.
You know,
But the tools that I had learned didn't come to mind.
No.
I had learned through treatment. I had learned through the 12-step program. Like, we're told to pick up the phone and call someone else in recovery, and none of that came to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got to sit with, perhaps your security being threatened and
Mm.
your, like, all the fears coming up. And yeah, rather than acting on the tools that you'd learnt, you went back to your old ways and went
Mm.
to the bar.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I think it was about I had 3 wines. And I got honest the next day and fessed up to what I had done,
Mm.
and I thought I was okay. And, I continued to go to meetings, I was going to work, and I was like, "Oh, it's 3 wines," and, like, I didn't lose anything, nothing happened.
Mm.
And then the next Friday, I was on a flight flying to Townsville to meet up with my partner, and, the flight got delayed by 5 hours, and by the time I got to Townsville, I was blackout drunk. And then
Not at an airport with
Yeah,
idle
yeah.
time.
And then, honestly, like, it was, I think, another 2 weeks before there was police involved at the house. I'd lost the house keys. I didn't pay the rent. I couldn't show up to work. It was like 2 weeks, and then I was back in rehab again,
Wow.
like, really quickly.
Yeah. How did it affect your partner?
Oh, a lot, because in that relapse, I was lying,
Mm.
manipulating. I was dishonest. I was secretive.
Mm.
he was having to take care of me, call ambulances, the whole works. And I think like that would have traumatized him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it really took a toll on our relationship from that point. And when I was in treatment, I made a whole new group of friends.
Mm.
And when I got out, like there was a stark difference in where we were at in recovery. Like I was back in early recovery
Yeah.
and he had progressed, and I guess like we were doing it together, we're on the same path. And then I sort of veered off and did my own thing. And it really fractured our relationship. Yeah, it changed after that.
Mm.
And then we moved up to Townsville. And that's sort of the start of my next, like this adventure now to Bali.
Okay.
Mm.
Talk us through that.
So when we met, like I knew he had come from North Queensland and that he had 3 children and that he wanted to eventually go back to live there. And I knew all of this, and we were just seeing how it goes in Brisbane and recovery and all of that. And I made a commitment to do that. And when he had set a time limit, like he'd spend 12 months in Brisbane, and we had been in Brisbane for 18 months. And he's like, it's time, like I need to be back and be there for my children.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it. Like I left my job as a lawyer, and he was going to take care of me, like all of these things, and I sacrificed it all, and I went all in, and I moved to Townsville. But looking back now, I didn't put my recovery first, because if I did, I should have stayed in Brisbane and continued what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to a place where I was isolated and alone, and I had no support. I had no fellowship. I had nothing.
Yeah, so the connection that you'd built in both of your early recoveries, you were stepping away from into the unknown.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I guess I didn't realize that I was also in a coercive, controlling relationship as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah. And, I would always make excuses and blame myself. And I was like deeply unhappy inside.
Mm.
And like I lost myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did everything to keep him happy. And me not using my voice and expressing my own needs and having my own recovery was also like killing me,
Mm.
and like, because over the time during the relationship, I built resentments, right?
Mm.
And didn't communicate them and was silent. And in the end, when I relapsed, it all came out in explosions.
Yeah.
Like it was ugly.
Yes.
And all of it spewed out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I suppressed it in my first recovery. I didn't talk about, in the end, I wasn't talking about how I was feeling.
Yeah.
I wasn't being honest about like not wanting to do things or how I felt about something, or, like I look back and I can see what led me back to that path. But it's how I've lived my whole life was, I guess, suppressing.
Mm.
And I continued to do that in my first recovery, thinking that I could get, like, put down the drugs and alcohol. That's it. Like, I'm going to be cured, But I didn't realize it was the patterns of behaviors and cycles, like, over time that I continued to repeat. And that was, like, what ultimately brought me undone.
So what led you to Bali?
So when that relationship ended, I was fortunate enough to have met some people in recovery that had been to Bali and done some recovery here. And I knew what was here. And look, I was like standing at a crossroads when that relationship ended. Shortly after I moved to Townsville, I left with a bag of clothes. I had nothing. I had invested money in our house and furniture, and I left my job, and like I walked away from everything that I ever wanted, like the relationship, the kids, everything. Like, I was so broken, and I was really lucky. I did I went to a meeting because I didn't know where else to go. I'm in the town. I don't know anyone. I went to a meeting. I held someone hostage and made them take me through the 12 steps in 7 days.
Yeah.
all day, every day on Townsville Esplanade
Wow.
over summer in like 40-degree heat. And I did it. Like, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like, if I don't do this now, I'm going to die.
Mm.
And because when that relationship broke down, like, I drank again. And then, so we did the steps, and then I was sitting in the shower, literally sitting down on the floor in the shower, like praying, like, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I do next? Like, I don't know where to go anymore. And like, the reality was the only place I could go back to that would have me would be my family, like in Newcastle, because I had 14 months of sobriety and I had repaired that relationship.
Okay.
And so they were like, they trusted me again and would let me be there. And in my head, I'm like, well, the only place I can go is back to Newcastle. And I just didn't want to do that because I had caused my family so much trauma. I just didn't want to, having relapsed again, I didn't want to put them through that again. I was like, I can't go back there
Yeah.
and cause more harm to my family. And I was sitting there in the shower and it just came to me, I'll just go to Bali. And I booked a one-way flight to Bali.
Wow.
And I planned on being there for a couple of weeks, and I spent a year in Bali, the whole of the last 12 months. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. And so this time round, you stayed sober in Bali.
Yes.
How amazing.
Yes.
And we're in a particular hotel. I believe this plays a story in a part of your story.
Yes. Yeah. So I flew to Bali and I landed, and I just booked like 1 or 2 nights in an Airbnb, and then, which was close to the meetings where I knew that the Just for Today meetings were. And that was my plan. And I went to 3 meetings that day. And then I came to the hotel that we're at now, and it's on the beach in Bali, Seminyak, Sunset Beach. And there's a rooftop bar and restaurant. And I went there to watch the sunset.
Yeah.
And I stood on that rooftop and I watched the sunset, and I knew in my heart I was exactly where I needed to be. I just knew I needed to be in Bali, because for me, I struggled with the spiritual side, and I thought, where else am I going to go except the island of the gods to find God, right?
Yeah.
I knew that what I had done in Australia, I couldn't work it. I couldn't find it. And everything that I needed, I found here in Bali last year.
Unbelievable. So all of the travel that you've done around the world, all of the geographicals,
Yeah.
you were looking for something
Yeah.
and then you found it here.
Yeah. I spent my whole life always searching for that thing to fill the void inside of me, that God-shaped hole inside of me. And I found that in Bali, because Bali is such a spiritual place. Like, it's hard to explain until you feel it and you experience it here. But the Balinese people are very spiritual people, and the way that they live their life, they live with humility, and they live with love and kindness, and they're very generous, and they have nothing, and they're grateful. And it's kind of like osmosis, right? Like, me living here, I just like absorbed it. And like, I learned how I want to show up in the world, but also like how the spiritual life works here. And there's lots of things that you can do to experience the culture and the spirituality here. And I just put my hand up for everything, and I tried everything on offer here.
Yeah.
And I was seeking God, and I found God. I
Yeah.
found a God of my own understanding here.
Can you talk us through how that came to you?
Through experience, and like, it's, for me, it's like not, it's like, you come to believe in a power greater than you. And for me, that process of coming to believe is through my own experiences that I can look back on and say, like, there's no other explanation but a power greater than me. Like, I can look back and see where God has done for me what I couldn't do for myself. And the situations that happened had to happen exactly the way they happened for me to be able to spend a year in Bali, get paid for that, and go on these spiritual adventures. And I have had like numerous moments in time along the journey where I have felt the presence of God. And, like, there's so many to talk about, but like, I guess it was just being open-minded to it. And I shared my step 5 with my sponsor, and I went for a walk on the beach in Sunset Beach in Seminyak, and I just remember looking at the sun, and I just felt the presence of God.
Mm,
And it's a feeling that I can't explain it, but for me, it was, and it still is, to do with the ocean,
yeah.
and it's to do with, the sun and the moon, and it's like I would stare into the waves, and it's a power greater than me. I can't control it.
Mm,
And the ocean connects me. It connects humans all around the world. And there's life above it, and there's life underneath the ocean. And it rises and it falls, and it's very calming for me. It's the only place that grounds me, and it's very healing. And like that process, and being able to explore things like breath work and somatic healing, like inner child healing, and all these different things that I've been able to explore here, it's transformed my life.
mm. Now, I find that Bali is a great place to slow down.
Mm,
So for me, it makes me a lot easier to connect with my higher power when it's calm, quiet, serene.
yes.
That's when God presents itself for me, and in nature as well,
Mm.
and like we can hear the waves in the background now. Um, it's pretty easy to step into that space.
Yeah. And that's the difference, I think, why I couldn't find it in Australia, because Australia's very busy. People are on their phones scrolling, headphones in, got to go to work, everyone's in a rush. And I lived life that way.
Mm,
And here, when I moved here, I was forced to sit with myself
mm,
for a start, which is something that I had never done. I was always running away from myself.
mm.
And I was forced to sit here and work on myself, but just learn to be in peace and silence. And um, I found myself at Buddhist temple. There's a Buddhist temple
Yeah.
in Seminyak, and I found myself doing prayer and meditation every morning. And over time, like, the progress and the change in me became obvious to other people.
Mm. Well, you're living the step, like that's step 11 stuff
Yeah.
there. Like through prayer and meditation, we deepen our understanding, and like there, it just feels like there's literal buildings all around us to slow down and
Mm,
step into reflection and contemplation and growth and spirituality. There's just so much of that around us. It's interesting because some of our mutual friends that are around us, that a lot of them are on their first trip overseas,
mm,
and it's for this NA conference, and it's amazing to see them, step out of Australia to invest in their recovery. But I think they really struggle as well because it can be so fast paced and
mm.
overwhelming and cultural shock. And what are we doing today? What are we doing today? It's
Yeah.
like, just walk along the beach, put your feet in the sand and read a book, like, and I find that now in my
Yeah.
recovery easy to do. But I used to be the same as well. I used to come to Bali and be like, go, go, go. What are we
Yeah.
doing today? Where are we going? Let's jump on four wheelers or bungee jump or whatever. I'm like, I don't need that
Mm.
now for me.
And that's a good point. And I think, and I have, the last few days I've spoke to a few people that are here for the convention, and I can see, like, they're overwhelmed. They're like, yeah, they're struggling
Yeah.
because, I guess for me as an alcoholic addict, like, I am a doer,
Mm.
and I chase the adrenaline, the excitement, the fun, and I'm go, go, go. And, but I can't live that way anymore because I burn myself
Yeah.
out. And it is interesting trying to watch people in the recovery navigate, like, to find the balance
Mm.
where they can do something one day and the next day have a rest,
And it is balanced. Like
Yeah.
we're sitting here in this hotel room with all this equipment around. Like I do this because I'm connecting
Mm.
with others in recovery, which I find really healing. But it's fucking stressful setting all this shit up and so much can go wrong. So it's like the yin and the yang of
Yeah.
like I hope this all comes out well, but it's stepping into that discomfort and the yin and the yang of the busyness and the stress, but also to pull myself
Mm.
back and ground myself as well. Tell us about what you're most excited for in your recovery now and moving forward.
Well, I think for me, from the moment I landed in Bali, like I had done the 12 steps of AA,
Yeah.
right? And I came here on a mission to do service, and that's what I did.
Yep.
And that's what excites me. It's what's changed for me, and it's what I look forward to in the future is being of service, like
To others.
to others.
Mm.
It's I was always chasing my purpose in life, and I found it.
Yeah.
Helping others is always what I've wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it. And now by the grace of God, I've been, you know, given I've been given freedom from the bondage of alcohol.
Mm.
And like the worst things that have happened to me are now my greatest asset.
Yeah.
And I guess last year I met women and I began sponsoring women, and I felt useful.
Mhm.
And I was going around Bali Island to all the treatment facilities doing H&I and carrying the message of experience, strength and hope. And I was volunteering in the Balinese community, cooking food for the orphanages in the kitchens and helping clean up after the floods here. And there's so many amazing organizations and charities here to be of service to the Indonesian community. And I was part of a committee that was created, the Public Information Committee last year. It was created for Bali to carry the message through the Indonesian community and open Bahasa speaking meetings, and to go and meet with doctors and hospitals and religious leaders to carry the message.
Yeah.
And I was so busy doing service. And this time last year, I was involved in the service for the NA convention.
Yep.
And I guess, like, for me, that's what brings me joy. It's what fills my cup. It's what keeps me well. It's what keeps me grateful.
Mm.
When I struggle in life on life's terms, which has been a lot this year, I know that I need to get off self and help someone else. And, I do some prayers. I ask for the right thought or decision and how to handle a situation. And then I get off self and get busy helping others. And somehow things just work out.
Yeah.
And that's like moving back to Australia was a big adjustment for me. And I knew that I needed to get in the middle of the fellowship and go back to 90 meetings in 90 days to build that connection again.
Yeah.
And I have thrown myself into not only a service in our fellowship, but I do some volunteer work in the community with the homeless. And no matter what's happened in my life, it's so weird how things work out and the synchronicity and, higher power. But like when I've had my absolute worst days this year in Australia, it's been at the same time that I've been already committed to something else of being of service, like volunteering with the homeless, or I was being a guest speaker at a meeting, or this or that. It always ends up being like the worst day for me, like where I don't know if I'm going to survive it. And it ends up being a day that I have to get off self and help someone else.
Yeah.
And I've somehow managed to get to bed clean and sober every night.
And how do you feel afterwards when you're of service?
Amazing. Because that's our purpose. Like I just never knew what's my purpose. What am I meant to do in the world?
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as welcoming a newcomer, giving them, all we need is one person to believe in us. One person who has been through what we've been through and can believe in us and give us hope, or, even just keep coming back.
Yeah.
Because there's constant relapses, sorry. And just being told and reminded that we've always got a place. And I remember like thinking last year, because I remember thinking, like, I came from a broken home, right? And I felt abandoned. And all I've ever wanted is someone that won't leave me, and a home that can't be taken away from me.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the rooms last year in Bali in my home group meeting, and I remember just knowing that God has never abandoned me, and that I have a home in the rooms of the AA and NA fellowship that can never be taken away from me. And I felt whole. I felt whole, and all was well in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking in my mind that you want a home that's not able to be taken away from you, but that home doesn't necessarily need to be 4 walls, a roof, and a mortgage.
Mm.
That home can be a place spiritually
Yeah,
of connection with others.
yeah,
Mm. I've
and
got one more
yeah,
question for you before we wrap up.
that's okay.
Was it harder to become a lawyer or to become sober?
Coming to sobriety and recovery is hands down the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. You know, I studied 6 years to be a lawyer. I've worked as a lawyer for 12 years, and I moved by myself to the other side of the world and lived in London. And honestly, to find recovery and to stay sober has been the hardest thing in the world. And I feel incredibly blessed and grateful to have found it because, you know, I've had to watch friends, I've had to lose a lot of friends
Mm.
from this disease. And I feel so blessed of what I found. It's a gift. And all I want now is, you know, I'm not interested in like chasing the dream, you know, the job and the money and the status and the houses and all of that. Like,
Mm.
I just want to be here for my fellows, and I enjoy the simple things in life, like being here in Bali and connecting with a bunch of addicts from around the world and just living and laughing and watching sunsets and going to waterfalls. And like, I just think we're so lucky to have found this.
Mm. And your home is within the rooms and
Mm,
within that community.
yeah.
Ash, it's been a beautiful conversation. Thanks so much for joining me on Slaying Sober.
Thank you so much.
I hope that you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. This podcast is an active service that my guests and I offer to spread a message of hope in recovery. If you could do me a favour and rate the podcast on your preferred platform, share it with a friend, or post it on your socials, it would mean the world to me. You can also reach out directly on Instagram at Slaying Sober Pod. I love hearing from you. Your support keeps me inspired to bring you more stories of strength, sobriety, and hope. Have a great day.